Opposite. Not moving the handle. Opposite directions. Give it time. There you go. That's a little bit better.
Okay. This is all being recorded already.
No, I can see that. For the bloopers. Right.
All right.
We start before we get too far down the road and have to
Turn around.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were just asking me, so James was asking me what was coming up in our community, because as you guys know, we
have a community.
We have a community, but we also we talk about what we're going to make a video on every single week. And so sometimes we have topics, sometimes we have questions. Obviously, it's all usually twin flame. It's all usually conscious relationships or spirituality, spiritual awakening. But today you were asking me, oh, what has come up in our twin flame path to awakening group, or what's been coming up in the community. And I think two of the biggest things that we were just touching on before we started recording here was this idea of letting go and surrendering that you may never come back together with your twin flame, right? And to me, I think that's a very important step of the process. I think it's a very important step of your awakening journey and your separation phase.
Yeah.
Because I think if you can't make peace with the fact that your life is going to be okay without this person, right? That your life is actually whole and complete already without them, then I think you're really going to struggle through the rest of the awakening process, or you're going to have those, and there's nothing wrong with this because it's all part of the journey, right? There's nothing wrong with the fact that you're struggling to let go of them. It's incredibly hard and difficult and painful, and you never know what wounds you might have from past lives with your twin, or what other things might be going on,
or lessons do you learn in this lifetime.
Yeah. And so I think part of that is if you do, let's say struggle to let go of them, and let's say you come back into contact, you're always going to be hanging on every word they say, because you're going to be so afraid if they leave you, right? Where if you can truly let go, you can truly let go of the fact that they may never be in your life again, then you actually have this freedom within you to say oh, I'll be okay if that happens. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to perish. I'm not a lesser person. I'm not unimportant. We were talking about that today. Certain things that James was doing was making me feel unimportant. And then I had to realize whether he showed up or not, we were talking about our Twin Flame Path to Awakening group, and James has a busy evening today. So I was asking him,
a busy day every day.
I was asking him if he was going to be on our dream circle for our group call, and he was saying he doesn't know. And so instantly what first came up for me was this feeling of he's abandoning me, and this feeling of I'm not important, or he's more important than I am. And so then I was talking to, and I was literally saying there's a part of me that feels that way, and then there's a part of me that needs to lean into this trust that if you're meant to be there, that you'll be there, right? And it doesn't have to be this, I want to go into the shadows. I think metaphorically we're also diving into the shadows now. We're diving into subconscious, so we're in the shadows now. I didn't know that this was going to happen, but here we are now in the shadows. So yeah, so that is huge, looking at, okay, there's a part of me that felt really wounded and felt like you were doing something to hurt me. And then there's a part of me that wanted to dive deeper into trust, and trusting that if you're meant to be there, you will be there, and that it doesn't take away from the value that I have if you're not there. Do you want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially in this whole twin flame path that obviously we and many of you guys are on, if we can get to a point where we can have complete trust and faith, and just really hold ourselves accountable for ourselves and be like, no matter what somebody else does, whether it's my twin flame, whether it's a business partner, family member, acquaintance, some random person you meet on the street, that's not actually going to affect you. If you're able to get to a point where, that can be your outlook on things and you're not affected by other people's circumstances, it really just puts you into a much higher bracket where it doesn't matter what comes about, you actually know that you're going to be okay. And like, if somebody else is able to show up in the way that you might want them to, you can still carry on exactly the same way you are going about things. There's nothing that stops you from being, exactly the way you want to be in that situation. And like we were talking about when we were back home, it's like, whether we do things together or you do them alone doesn't mean that just because I'm there, it's better. It just means there's a little bit extra to it.
The heck happened here?
Don't do that. Don't do.
Did it die?
No, I think it's just too unbalanced with the mic.
There's an imbalance.
Remember to hold the trigger.
There we are. Okay. Hold the trigger.
Yeah, it's like, whether I'm a part of it or not doesn't mean it will be better or less. It just means there might be a little bit more information, but the product itself is still going to be exactly what it's meant to be. That there's nothing that takes away from it just because if there's a person there or a person not there. So yes, it could be more having a person there, but if they're not there, it's still exactly what it actually needs to be. And if you can hold on to that and accept that, what ends up coming out of your life is huge. There's no limitations then, because everything is exactly where it's meant to be. And you like, you know what, this is the situation, it's going to be great, doesn't really matter what happens from there. And you take that and allow that to be your main driving force. I think if you're able to do that, then you can step into the light.
And that's the idea of like letting go of meditations, letting go of expectations.
Yeah.
Because you have this idea that you might want something to play out a certain way, but you're not attached to it needing to play out that way in order for you to feel good about yourself, in order for you to feel worthy, in order for you to feel whole or complete. Now we're turning. And which way do I point it? That way. You guys, I'm working with this new gimble thingy, so I'm learning how to use it now. But yeah, I mean, letting go of your expectations that like things must be a certain way. That's even like in, what do you want to call it? A metaphor for what we're doing in this video, like this is not normally how we film our videos. So it feels like in some ways a little bit awkward, in some ways like very, like the slow walking feels like to me very meditative in a way.
To me, it feels like I'm not going fast enough.
So like so there's a feeling of like just like newness, and I think that's the truth also of letting go of expectations, because if you have all these ideas of how everything should be and how everything should play out, you're actually not leaving space for like magic and possibilities and things that you're not expecting to actually happen. So I think that's really, really important. The other thing that was coming up really strongly was this feeling of the discrepancy that we as twins experience a lot of times with my twin is acting one way, yet I still know that this is a divine relationship at the end of the day, right? So like there's a feeling of my twin is this crazy person, right? This crazy human, but yet also this relationship is divine. And like, how do we come to terms with the fact that this relationship is as much human as it is divine? Do you know what I mean?
I think so.
Do you have anything to say on that topic? This is one of those human moments.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know how to, I guess, reword that for different, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm completely lost for words for the first time in a while. You've stumped me. And there's a big tree stump over there. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this journey can be very tricky at times, and there's so many different levels to it. And ultimately, whether you end up with your twin flame or not, that's obviously not the main purpose of the twin flame journey. The whole purpose is, to be able to explore these things and be around your twin if possible, and you know, figure out, is this a lifetime where we're going to actually unite together and create this image or this lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, with one another, or is it going to be that we're actually going to be on two separate paths, and that's okay? And being able to, like, I would really like to be with them, but all I can do at the moment is be on my path, let them be on their path, support them where I can, whether that's physically, whether that's verbally or energetically, or whatever it might be.
Is there a car coming?
Yeah, there's a car coming. Yeah, you just got to find the way to be able to support people in the best way you possibly can. And that's the beautiful part about this journey, is you're really able to be with your twin on so many different levels that a lot of times we don't think of. A lot of times we always think of, I want to be on a physical level with you, and that then leads to the emotional and etc. etc. Where sometimes the physical doesn't actually have to, be the part that's the main aspect. Where so many of us get so lost, and this is the main thing, and without this, everything else doesn't come. Where not necessarily, it could come from emotional, could come from energetic, and then from those things could lead to physical. Um, so yeah, this whole journey is pretty crazy, in all honesty.
Yeah, there's a lot of different. I did a good job panning there.
Yeah,
I'm learning. There's a lot of different aspects to the twin flame journey. A lot of different dimensions to the twin flame journey. And I do agree with you. I think we get sometimes a little bit too caught up on the physical, and like if you're in a fight with your twin flame, like we automatically think, oh, how could we ever get back together after this? Like I've seen a lot of, and I've worked with a lot of twin flames that like they have extreme stories, really extreme stories. Like, how could we ever forgive each other? How could we ever get back together after this? And like, as you're saying, like, that's not the point, right? Yeah. The point isn't whether we get back together or not. The point is, did the time that we spent together bring me closer to my authentic self, bring me closer to who I really am? Did it help show me ways that I'm not showing up for myself right now, or ways that I'm not loving myself or supporting myself right now? Like that's more so the purpose. I'm getting lost again. Yeah, I mean, that's more so the purpose. I want to like push it with my hand. That's more so the purpose. Nope, wrong way. That's more so the purpose than anything else.
It's about learning, just like you're learning right now
is about learning
with new fancy technology.
Yeah. Using the new tools to your disposal and saying like, okay, I don't necessarily know right now how this is going to work out. But hopefully at some point, this is going to start to turn into something, and I'm going to get better at this, and I'm going to learn new tools. That is really what the twin flame journey is about, is learning these new tools of how we relate to ourselves, relate to the universe, and relate to our twin flame.
And other people in general as well, in the world that we live in. I mean, I can speak from my side, being in the building industry. Like, sometimes we get new tools, and it takes a little bit of time to really understand how the tool works and how to use it to the best of your ability, where you're getting the most out of it without actually, hurting yourself or taking away from it, or breaking the tool, or whatever it might be. It's actually about saying, I have this tool. How can I make this tool work for me in the best way possible, but by making sure I'm using the strengths of the tool and not trying to make it do something that's not actually purposeful.
Yeah, that's not meant to do.
Yeah. I mean, you can't take a drill and, use it to cut a piece of wood. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You got to use it for drilling.
Yeah. And I think that is part of the twin flame journey, is like we start to realize that our old ways of relating to people, the old tools that we had to relate, turn into where did you go? Our old tools.
Found your old tool.
Our old tools, we realized like don't work in these new scenarios anymore. And they're not going to, they're not meant to. Like those tools they have served their purpose. They got you to where they needed to go. And we have to always be willing and humble enough to learn something new, to learn new ways of doing things. Even if, you know, your twin flame tells you months ago that like you should do videos like this and you ignore them at the time and then make fun of them today when they say they want to do a video like this, and then say there's no ego in that, I'm just making a joke.
I was making a point, not a joke.
Yeah, well, you said you were making a joke.
No, I said I was making a point.
No, you did not. No, you did not.
I just said there was no ego. I said, but I did.
You said,
I did say this.
You didn't say you were making a point. You said you were just found it funny. I just found it funny how when I said this months ago that it was you didn't want to do it, and now you want to do it. So the lesson there is you're only going to get there when you're going to get there.
Yeah.
Somebody might have a really good idea of what you should work on and what you should be doing, but if you're not open to receiving it, then you're going to get there when you get there regardless, right? Like you can't get there too early, you can't get there too late, because who knows, we could have started making videos like this months ago and I wasn't in a space to do it, and it could have blown up in our faces like big time. We don't really know what it still could. We don't actually know what could happen. But the point is to just surrender to that unknowingness, surrender to that fact that we don't actually know what's going to happen. Neither of us actually knows what's going to happen. Someone actually asked us in our Twin Flame Path to Awakening group last week. We had a Q&A session, and one of the participants was asking, oh, well, like, what do you do? Like, do you guys in your relationship now, like, isn't that living with a lot of uncertainty, knowing that you might not always be together like forever? And I'm like, well, yeah, but like we can't say that we're going to be together forever. Like that's what we both want. Yeah. That's what we want. But almost all relationships start out that way, right? Like almost all relationships start off with wanting to be together forever. And you know, that's the goal for a lot of people, but it's not the determining outcome of value of a relationship. Being together forever doesn't mean that relationship was valuable. There's a lot of really unhappy people that have been together forever. So I think just surrendering to that fact that like we don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't know how long each one of us are living. We don't know like any of these things. And so, but once you come to that place within yourself and understand like, okay, well, this is it, this is what we've got, then let's make the most of like what we've got right now, rather than worrying about 10 years from now, right? Or rather worrying about like, is it ever going to be this thing? It's like, let's make the most of what it is right now and then worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, a lot of us, we try to control every single factor in our lives, which for the most part, you know, we don't actually have that much control about what things that are going to happen or things that are happening. All we really can do is cherish things that have come and gone, and we can enjoy the moment that we are currently living in. Because if you try and live so much into like tomorrow, the next day, and next week, and what's going to happen and when this is going, you actually lose out on what you're experiencing right now. And if you're able to focus in more on the present and what's actually currently happening, you end up actually starting to enjoy life more. It just takes a lot of strain off of relationships. It makes things easier. It doesn't mean that every moment's going to be like all happy clappy and jumping around for joy. Still going to be tough times, but all you can do is make the most of it and see why is this happening? What can I learn from it? How can I take this to help, not necessarily avoid it happening again, but so that if it does come up again, like how can I be like, okay, I've actually got coping mechanisms for this. How this is the ways that when these things come up, I can actually use these tools to actually help my situation better itself, and just kind of move from there. So live in the present. Call the present for a reason, because every moment is a gift.
I'm gonna cut that out. All right, guys. It was lovely having this chat with you. Where am I? It was lovely having this chat with you. Thank you so much for joining us on our channel, on our page. If you're looking for more support, you know where to go. Check the links. We're going to get back in the car now and enjoy the rest of our day. Big love. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.